who over time has earned the respect of many people who have watched as Parliament sort of began to, correct the wrongs of the past, recusing himself.
That's right. Quite a bold step from Vincent Smith, who, as you rightly said, has somewhat being a moral voice within the ANC caucus over months and years of allegations of corruption as well as state capture. He was often at the forefront of leading very hard questioning of particularly his colleagues who are serving in cabinet. But nonetheless, Vincent Smith recusing himself from the Constitutional Review Committee this morning, saying that he had important business to attend to. We later found out that was then a meeting that he had with the ANC's chief whip, Jackson Mthembu. Vincent Smith releasing a statement saying that he had not received any bribe from Bosasa, but he had in fact received 2 loans in 2 tranches rather, in order to pay for his children's university tuition. Vincent Smith now saying that he is willing to step aside from all his chairperson work in Parliament. He says he'll step aside from the Constitutional Review Committee as well as from his newly appointed position as chairperson of Parliament's Justice Portfolio Committee. He's saying he's committed to stepping aside until Parliament's Ethics Committee visits his case and makes a definitive ruling. Also saying that he will prepare himself to appear before the ANC's Integrity Committee, saying that the allegations of bribery against him are false and that he would want to clear his name before taking that chairpersonship's role. The ANC caucus saying that while that they admire the steps taken by Vincent Smith, they're saying that they first want to discuss it internally with the party's political committee here in Parliament, saying that they will then make a decision whether to accept Vincent Smith's proposal that he then step aside from chairing all parliamentary committees until a time in which his name is cleared.
Let's go through some of the submissions quickly in the little time that we have, Lester, starting with the Grain South Africa. I saw a bit of their presentation as they started, saying adamant that the Constitution as it is right now actually does most, if not all, of what the proposition or those who support the new proposition of changing the Constitution to expropriate land without expropriation may do. What else did they say?
One notes firstly the considered, one would argue, and very sober presentations made by organizations like Grain SA and Agribusiness, saying that while they accept and they promote that land reform does need to take place in South Africa and that it is imperative for South Africa's medium to long-term stability, they're saying that mechanisms don't necessarily mean that the constitution of the Republic needs to be changed, and that already in their opinion the Section 25 clause allows for the expropriation of land. They're considering the broader economic implications on what a amendment of the South African Constitution would mean, what implication this could mean on foreign investment in South Africa, saying that in the long term it may be a quick boon right now, but in the long term this could affect grain production. Jannie de Villiers of Grain SA saying that they predict that within the next year there's a more than 50% chance that South Africa could experience drought conditions in its main grain and maize producing areas, and saying that any attempt to change the constitution could put a lot of strain not only on current farmers but also on emerging black farmers, saying that this could have an impact on the amount of food that is produced in South Africa. Representatives also from agribusiness saying that they are worried that what this could mean, particularly for emerging black farmers, saying that currently they're offered long-term leases by government of up to 30 to 40 years, and they're arguing that black farmers can't use that as collateral to go to any bank and financial institution and say that we need capital to start producing crops. So they're saying that there's a broader issue of how to not only only deal with the land reform process, but also then to equip emerging black farmers so that South Africa doesn't end up with a food crisis.
Another important constituency that was supposed to come before the committee to make its own presentation was, of course, COSATU, Lester.
That's right. The COSATU is throwing its weight around the proposal of land expropriation without compensation. They're particularly concerned at vacant or abandoned land that is not being used. And not only land by private individuals, also land that is owned by government, saying that there's far too much land that is laying vacant, far too many fields that are lying fallow, and that these should be the first to be expropriated in any land reform process. There's also concern from them that the conversation is too narrowly about agrarian land and rural land, saying that the issues regarding urban land and the proximity of people from where they live to where they work is also a broad issue that needs to be discussed. But I think it was Almin du Plessis of the University of the Northwest, professor in the university faculty, saying what is essentially so important about this process is that for the past few weeks and months, and will continue, South Africans are talking about this very important issue of land reform. It's still expected to be a long and difficult process, but she says South Africa is on the right foot for having this conversation in the first place, and is looking for a resolution soon to basically afford South Africa a stable republic come the medium to long term.
Lester Kiviet, that's why we're going to leave it for this evening. He has, of course, been part of those conversations.